most fraud is committed, or at least begins online.
Yeah.
And we are woefully unprepared. But in terms of dangers of kids, we talked a bit about being age appropriate.
Right.
Think about that for a minute. Think about questions you might ask yourself. Think about yourself growing up. Would your parents give you a subscription to Hustler as a 14th birthday present?
Yeah. Very
Of
good.
course not. How many parents will give their kid a cell phone for a 14th
Yeah.
birthday present?
Yeah.
Many. Well, okay, there are software overlays you can put on the cell phone before you hand it to your child.
Right.
You certainly, at a minimum, need to talk to your child about what parental controls you're going to put on it and why, and things you don't want them doing, and
Yeah.
check it every once in a while. There,
Yeah.
it's a gift, it's a privilege.
Yeah.
The parent controls the Wi-Fi access. You can shut it off. You think about a good parent sets boundaries for their children, and provides inspiration and incentives. So before you hand the technology, give it to your child, think that through for a minute. What don't you want them to do? You don't want them to do anything that puts themselves at risk.
Right.
And
Right.
so you want to minimize that. Now, the temptation, and being a parent is not easy. And we also we're trying to work with a lot of the technology companies and the social media companies, especially on changing the framework and having them build safer platforms. It's one thing to say, okay,
Right.
you have to be 13 to use this software.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of gray area, and the courts are taking a harder look at some of the stuff, but that's going to take years. The companies need to come to the table and help build safer programs and work with parents and groups like us
Right.
who want to make safer
on
platforms.
that note, Paul, states are doing this too, right? I mean, like even in
Some states.
Kenya, they did an age requirement to get into these websites.
Age requirements. We're not big on that because we've had age requirements for many years on alcohol and tobacco sales, and people work around that. They're
Yeah.
not foolproof. But anyway, yes,
Yeah.
states are doing that. States are being far more active than the federal government in terms of filing lawsuits at the state level on some of these platforms. We mentioned Snapchat. Since the time we started ringing the alarm bell on drugs being sold on Snapchat and the prevalence of it, 6 states have gone to court against Snapchat. The most extensive lawsuit so far being Utah.
Yeah.
Very detailed, very specific harms that happen to children in Utah on Snapchat. We have a tremendous support, Republican and Democrat, from state attorneys general across the board. I'm in frequent contact with them, speak at their national meetings, and we exchange information all the time.
Yeah.
So there's a lot happening on that front, because ultimately it's going to come down to think about the car analogy. And think about the information superhighway. We started going on the information superhighway with all this excitement. There were no traffic lights. There were no seatbelts. There were no airbags.
Right.
And here we are 30 plus years into the internet. And for the most part, there were still no seatbelts, airbags, safety traffic lights. So we need some of those things.
Yeah.
Is it easier for the companies not to have those things? Of course.
Yeah.
But at the rate in which, you talked about drugs in the 1980s.
Yeah. Yeah.
And where we are at fentanyl. If you look at the crack and cocaine epidemic and what's happening with opioids and fentanyl, the numbers are not even close. Sadly, the number of deaths that we have, especially among young people, from fentanyl, largely due to fake pills, because this is not a kid who was out seeking to buy fentanyl. And let that sink in. You may have a 12-year-old and they somehow get their hands on a fake pill. 3 or 4 fake pills containing a small amount of fentanyl or enough to make that child addicted to an opioid. They're addicted to an opioid before the child, the parent, or the pediatrician knows they have an addiction.